free and comment as well. And I believe we are now live and good to go. I need to double check just in case. And refresh. And actually on the channel, it's not gone live yet. It should be broadcasting now. Good thing I checked. Refresh. There you go. Now we're on there. Happy days. Okay. If people in the chat that can see it, feel free and comment down below. And if you guys can, then we'll get underway. Okay. And yep, there you go. We've got people commenting in now. Perfect. All right, let's go. So let's start the actual sort of podcast bit now. So there you go. Lepus and Count. How you doing, boys? 3, 2, 1. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of The Longside. Today, I've got Turfcast and Adam Major, two people in the Burnley community, and myself to discuss two separate topics today. Number one being the preview for the game tomorrow at Turf Moor for Burnley versus Preston North End. A bit of a derby. Is it a main derby? We all know it's not a main derby, but it is still a derby though, or a rivalry. What's the definition? No one really knows or cares. So that would be towards the end of this video or episode. But the main sort of debate that I wanted to bring forward today is about a bit of a event that happened earlier in the week, which I felt like is something that should be spoken about in a, relatively, regulated setting, with some actual conversations and debates about what we can do for the future. Is there anything that is needed for the future? And I think that this is a good way to do that conversation. So I shall bring on our guests here. So welcome the boys, Adam and Joe. How are you doing today, boys?
Evening. You all right?
Good.
Happy days. So of course, Turfcast from Joe from Turfcast podcast. Absolutely fantastic work. And I was actually listening to your podcast today for the Preston preview, and I really love the lad you bring on. He's a good lad, honestly.
Yeah, Sam, he's sounded Sam. I like Sam. It's a shame I normally get like a fan of the opposition to come on, but because Preston are so incredibly tin pot, I couldn't find one. That's the second time this season that's happened to me. So I just brought Sam on, who's another Clara, but as you say, he's a good lad, so it's a good chat.
Yeah, I love that dig. I can't lie. And then Adam, who I've been going turf with for quite a while now, he's seemingly just kind of popped up alongside me in Cookerfield End like 5 years ago and just never, I don't know why, but every single away day I go to, I just always bump into you. It's almost like you stalk me. Do you stalk me?
No comment.
Maybe a little bit. So let's get straight into the main topic of this episode. So the loyalty point system. We've all gone through it multiple times. I believe that it popped up at the start of the season with Huddersfield, which it went and it got sold within a day or two. And this case was, I think, a lot more shorter. I think it was only up for it was up for the entire day, but I think it ended up I want to say 7 in the evening. The main point is that 6,000 loyalty points was the minimum requirement, and 3,474 tickets all got sold out with that 6K minimum requirement. So I'll go to Joe first. A lot of feedback. I want to say more backlash. Backlash got sent on social media and people pointing the fingers at particularly the older fan base. What's your thoughts on how it was received?
I don't see why there needs to be this sort of civil war amongst Burnley fans. It has to be Orient lot versus a younger lot or whatever. And because I'm 35, I kind of get caught in the middle of all that. That needs to stop. We all just want the same thing. We all just want to go on Burnley games. We all just want to see the team do well. So I don't necessarily see the point of that. But in terms of the actual loyalty point system, obviously, I think the title of this is it dated. And I do think it is slightly dated. I don't think it needs a massive overhaul. I just think it needs tweaking a little bit for it to be fairer for everybody else.
And that's pretty fair. Adam, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think the Burnley fans love to blame each other, and at the end of the day, the issue falls with the ticketing department. I just feel like it encourages people to use other people's accounts, especially when you're younger. So then when you do get to 30, 35, suddenly you don't have any points either. It's a tough one because I'm guilty of it myself. I've used someone else's account who's a lot older than me, but that doesn't make it right. And yeah, I think people need to start getting on at the ticket office rather than at each other for the problem.
Yeah, there was quite a lot of back and forth online, which I saw. And a lot of it, I don't think was really justified because it's not if you're age 30 or 40 or whatever, it's not their fault. It's not their reason why the system is what it is. And I do completely sympathize with younger people who, I'm in that camp as well, that I've only got like 3,000 loyalty points. And that's because my dad didn't take me to turf. My dad doesn't care about football. So I could only go when my brother could. And he went to uni and I missed like 3-4 years of that as well because no one could take me. So I got individual like 10 points here or there for the odd game or two because I generally couldn't go. My dad wouldn't trust me to go games. So then when I actually did get a job, I turned 16, worked at McDonald's in Cone, spent all my money going to games. And I went for like 4 or 5 years and that's how I collected 3K points. I believe as of right now, it is 350 points per season ticket that you purchase. That's how many points you get, and only 10 points for any game that you purchase individually, home game or cup games or away games. So I'll go to Adam for this because you put out a tweet which I want to highlight here, which you said of maybe a new system or a new way of doing points that you think could be a good thing to introduce. So would you like to go into what you said?
Yeah, basically I said, I think the fact that no matter what game you buy tickets for, you get the same amount of points is just a bit of a joke. You could go play Blackpool at home and get 10 points, or you could go to Millwall on a Tuesday night and also get 10 points. I don't think it rewards... I think it needs to reward loyalty in different ways. Like, I'm not saying someone who goes to Millwall on Tuesday night is a better fan, but I think you need to reward that commitment more. So I would suggest possibly increasing the points depending on the distance you travel, or but for absolute certain, if it's a midweek game, it's double points, because if you're going to Millwall on a Tuesday night, you deserve double points. But I just think, yeah, the further you go, maybe the more points you should be given for that, because obviously you're probably showing a bit more loyalty. And it's
okay. And so that's one way of doing it, that you can introduce it in a way that, I guess the I don't know, you've done it more by distance, haven't you? So you said in your tweet 40 points for South Coast or Welsh games, 30 points for London, 20 points for Midlands and North East, and 10 points for all local games. That's just one sort of like on top of your head a sample. Joe, do you think that could be something that could be or should be implemented?
I think the problem with that is the way of policing it. Like, I know we all know the Burnley fan. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I think it's also Adam. No, it's Andrew, who lives up in Scotland, who puts like a tweet up every week saying how far he's travelling and stuff to games.
Yeah,
obviously he lives up in Scotland and stuff. Yeah, he is. How do we, like, are you policing it by getting his postcode off the club, and then the club say, right, well, this guy lives up in Ayr, for example. I don't know where he lives. He's going all the way to the South Coast, so we'll give him 100 points for this week, as opposed to somebody who lives on the South Coast and is just walking 5 yards into the Bournemouth Stadium. But then if that is the case, there's people out there that will work out where the best postcode is, like, for all the points, if that makes sense. So you'd lie about where you live, essentially. Tell the club you live in Birmingham, for example, because you can get more points there. So it's difficult to police something like that. I like the idea of giving more points to people who go on Tuesday nights, because in a away game on Tuesday night, I really struggle to go on midweek games. And, there's a reason, because, I work, I've got a child and things like that. So if you are able to do something like that, then yeah, fair enough. You probably do deserve stuff a little bit more. But the only problem with the distance thing is it's going to be really hard to police. Like, did all the Burnley fans that live in London get 30 points per game for going to a London game, even though they've only got on a tube, for example? Whereas, if we went all the way from Burnley to London, that is an absolute trek. So I do like the idea of different points for different sort of things, especially maybe like distance. But it's just policing it. I just don't see how the club would be able to police that and how they'd be able to work it all out.
Yeah, which I think is very fair. Like, I'm a good example. I live in Poland, so
Yeah,
technically
which
every
is
game for
like
me is a
1,000
40-point
points a
game.
game.
You know,
Yeah.
every game I've got to fly out. So like, you know, that's one thing. Like you could maybe do like a Tuesday night game down Millwall. You could say that could be justified to have more points given than a home cup game against, you know, Ipswich, for example. So that could be a thing that can be put in. I used the example on my previous podcast about what English fans do, that their system of loyalty points is that it's like a 3-year history, sort of like of what you have previously gone to, what's previously paid for. And that if you've gone to, you know, X amount of games, let's say you've gone to, if there's a maximum of, let's say, a total of, I don't know, 25 England games in the last 3 years. Let's just give an example, right? And that if you've been to 15 of the last 25, then that puts you in a certain tier. And if you've been to 10 of them, that's another tier, and 5, etc., right? And could that be something that can be also alongside a sort of loyalty point system that we have now, that we can have people who's gone to X amount of games in the last 3 years, alongside also fans who have also collected 6,000 points or 10,000 points, whatever it is, for being a fan for however long? Is that asking too much, or is that something that you think is just, do you think it's possible, basically, Joe?
I think the way it should be done is sort of like a recent history. Maybe extend it a little bit more than 3 years, but say like for what you've done in the last 5 years. So like you only get a certain amount of points, and then say like for this season, as soon as this season finishes, the games from 6 years previously drop off your points total. So you don't get people hoarding points. I think another way of doing it would be an away point loyalty system. So you've got an overall one and an away one. So for the massive games like Blackburn away, United away, City away, say if you've gone to 25 away games, just use your example, your random number, 25 away games in the last 2 years, then you will have more away loyalty points than somebody who's only gone to Man United, Man City, Blackburn and Blackpool. So I think an away loyalty point system might work, but also a recent history one to stop people hoarding them from the last 15 years. Because to be fair, I've got like 12,000. So I'm one of these people that has hoarded them for the last X amount of years. But then on the flip side of it, I will go to probably around 10 away games per season. So if you have somebody who, like I said, has gone to 25, 30 away games over the last 2-3 seasons, they should be able to go to the closer ones, or just higher the total, or have a certain amount that always go on general sale. So always make sure 25% of tickets go on general sale, so you can sell out a loyalty points, whatever system you bring in, it doesn't matter, but you'll always have 25% to go on general sale, for example. And another thing that I don't like that the club currently have is the fact that they have the supporters club having a certain number of tickets per away game. So I don't know if it's a number, I don't know if it's a percentage. If it is a number, it should be go down to a percentage of what the away allocation is, rather than, say, for example, if we only get 3,000 tickets to Blackpool, but yet the supporters clubs are getting 500, then that should change to a percentage on what we actually get rather than an actual number. But I don't know, just thinking out loud with some ideas there, but I do think the recent history one for, like, say, the last 5-4 years, for example, where it drops off after a certain amount of time, would stop people to start hoarding points.
Yeah, and that is a great example that you gave with the supporters clubs, because for me, that is how I got to all my games. And that's another issue of, I could have collected 200 or 300 points for me actually going to my away games. I went to basically every away game bar like maybe 3 a year for about 3 years straight. But for like all of those games bar maybe like, I want to say 20% of them, I actually got from Aki Clarets. Aki Clarets I went to almost every single game for 2-3 years. And I didn't get the points for that because I couldn't, for the most part, because I only had 1,000, 2,000 points. Now, I do like the idea of potentially having a situation that we get, for example, Blackpool, 3,400 tickets available, and that you have a section of that kind of ticket amount. There's kind of split, put to one side for season ticket holders, for example. So X amount could be for all first come, first serve of 6,000, and then 4,000, and then 2,000 loyalty points. But once it hit season ticket holders, that could be like a bit there so that people can stand a chance, particularly younger fans. Because again, if you're a younger fan, you are kind of being cheated out of it, because you kind of have no chance to, unless if you know a person, an older fan that can allow them to use their account, because that's what most people do, which again means that you aren't actually collecting the loyalty points yourself and just relying on season tickets year per year, which that could be a case of just have to deal with it, just have to be street smart, because I do hear a comment a lot that, look, it's not every game. Like, not every game you're going to have to go through the system. And sometimes there may just be games that you just may have to miss out and kind of just deal with it. Adam, do you think that mentality is fair? Do you think that's a solid claim to say to people, or do you think that's not right?
Yeah, I just think you should. I quite liked what Joe said about maybe having well, was it you or Joe that said about having a certain amount of games per way? Maybe you could like combine the two together, where just a generic, you go to Millwall away or you go to Bournemouth, it's just a loyalty point system. But for the big games, you've got like Huddersfield sold out a semi-local one. You got Blackburn, Blackpool, Preston. I feel like you should have more of a how many games did you go to last season? It should be more for the bigger games. It should be more recent history, and for the other games, it's just whatever. I think it gives everyone a fair crack, because the loyalty point system does work okay for 90% of games. It's just the big ones it's never worked for, and it never will, because it's just such a flawed system. It rewards older fans a lot more than younger fans, and you could argue, yeah, it should reward older fans, but it rewards older fans that went 25 years ago and got all these, or 10 years ago, got all these points, and then they've stopped going. Suddenly Blackburn tickets come on sale. Fancy that game. And they get first dibs. They haven't been for 10 years, but they get first dibs because they've got all those points. So I think the bigger games that sell out quick should be done on how many games did you do last season. Whereas the Bournemouth, your Millwall should be done on just, if you want to go, then you want to go, because it rarely sells out quick anyway.
Yeah, I mean, what I would kind of caveat that with is that I kind of find that most of the older kind of fan base that you're leading into, that, you know, may not go to games and then decide that, Blackpool or Blackburn, I want to go to that game. I kind of find that if you are already going to that kind of game, most of the time you kind of go to other games anyway. So I don't know. I mean, that's just my own kind of own personal opinion. And when it comes to like I get it. I get it from older fans, because, you know, they've been to games since the Orient days and the 4th division, 3rd division completely. So if they've been going games for that length of time, I get why they should also have that first dips. I also think there should be a way that either a section of tickets get split and left for season ticket holders at least. I wouldn't even say general sale. I would say season ticket holders, because that's completely fair in my opinion. I think that's a fairer way that they get their first dibs. People can be street smart, and then people that may not be able to have that privilege can also have the chance for when it gets put up for season ticket. Because the reason why I'm saying this now is that, look, our club is only going to get better and better and bigger, because Vincent Kompany, the way we're playing football, and the fact next year we're in the Premier League, which, saying that, there's not that many stadiums that really gives you that many tickets. So I feel like we're going to be going through this and having this conversation a lot next year. There'll be a lot of sellouts very fast next year, especially because of the way we're playing and how I think we're probably going to do next year and how successful we may be. So that's why I'm having this conversation now, because I think that we may need to see a world where something may need to be adapted. Joe, do you think that's fair?
Sorry, Adam. You know, it's funny you mentioned the season ticket thing, because when I was growing up, that's how it used to work. If you had a season ticket, it'd be season ticket holders first, then it'd be general sale. So that used to work back then. I don't ever remember people. I mean, obviously, I know there weren't YouTube and Twitter, but I never remember people arguing and stuff in playground or pub, whatever, about it. But yeah, I do think it's fair. I do think maybe sort of like tweaking the stuff like Adam said as well, sort of like having maybe sort of like either season ticket holders, like you said, Liam, or away ticket holder pool, them sort of things as well. And I do think a certain percentage should always be held back for general sale, just to avoid stuff like this and the people that have used other people's points or have gone through the supporters clubs. Because I used to go Aki Claris as well back in the day. This is before the lighter point system though. So I would have been in that position as well in my early 20s where I wouldn't have had enough points to Blackburn away. But like I was saying off air, I was quite lucky in the fact that my dad always took me on the turf. So I've always been able to build up some points pretty easily. But there needs to be a fairer system for these sort of games where everyone's going to want to go, because we've got Blackburn coming up soon, so it's just going to be the same again. All right, they'll give us more tickets, but it's still going to be the same sort of thing. A lot of fans that will want to go will miss out.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I don't remember there being that much of a hoo-ha when it came to Preston away, if you guys remembered, because they give you quite a healthy amount of tickets. Was there a problem then?
Don't think
no,
so.
I think
it went about 7,000 at Preston.
Yeah, I think it went to general sale because I remember tickets going on sale quite soon before the game. Tickets were still being bought.
I guess if we're speaking about Blackburn, then it may give you some hope, because we're probably going to get like 5K tickets for that game as well. That maybe for Blackburn it may not be as bad as what some people think. Hopefully anyway.
It won't be as bad as Blackpool. Definitely won't be as bad as Blackpool. But I think a few fans will be left disappointed. They used to give us I think about 7,000 there as well, but due to like reducing of it due to police, they give us a bit less now.
I quite liked what Huddersfield did when they came. When Huddersfield first got to the Premier League, everyone wanted to go. Loads of people wanted tickets. They had their point system where you had to have so many points, but I think they held, I don't know the exact numbers, but for example, 500 tickets back for a ballot, and you just emailed the club and you said, I want to be added to this ballot, and then it just random, you got emailed, you've got 2 tickets for this game, or you've got 3 tickets for this game, or unlucky, try next time, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which I think that would be, it's a completely random, no one's priority.
People, honestly. I think they may cause more outrage, I think.
I think that's just, no one's going to be happy, and I think that's the fairest way. It's just a completely random shot, and if you want to be annoyed, you can be annoyed, but I think there's never going to be a way that everyone gets tickets, so I think you've just got to give everyone the fairest chance. And yeah, there's going to be some people that have that unlucky streak of going 10 games without getting a ticket, but that's
going to be. I can't see a world where that's not going to cause even more of a mess. Honestly,
it's funny you say that though, because I think that's what Man United do. I think Man United do ballots, but I know some lads that go to every single Man United game. So again, there's always ways around these ballots, and there's always ways around the way that we do it now. Like you said about people sharing points and stuff, sharing numbers. So again, I do think that's what the biggest clubs do. Because obviously Man United could sell out at pretty much every stadium they went to if they wanted to. So I think that's what they do in terms of the ballots. But there's obviously ways around that as well.
Okay, so to kind of conclude this topic here about loyalty points, I'll go to each of you. If you can give me like a sentence, in a sentence about what would you do and what you think could be changed about the current system, because hopefully this does reach out to someone at the club. I'll send it off, and that maybe something can be moved towards the future. I'll start off with you, Adam. What would you do?
I'd increase the amount of points you get for an away game, because the fact you get 10 for a home game, if you buy a home ticket, you get 10 points. If you buy an away ticket, you get 10 points. I think away loyalty points have to be increased, like across the board. I would double the amount of points you get for midweek games, and I would introduce a more recent history for the bigger games.
That's fair. Joe?
Yeah, I like the idea of more points for away games, definitely, because, like you say, it's unfair if somebody's going to Bournemouth on a Tuesday night and they're getting 10 points, whereas somebody who just went to Ipswich at home on a Tuesday night is getting the same amount of points. But I think the most logical thing to do was to stop people hoarding all these points, which, again, I admit I'm guilty of, but it's just the way it is just to have a recent history. So just the last 5 years. So if you are going to change the points, that's fine, change the points, but only have it for the last 5 years, so not people just holding on to 12, 13, 14,000 points.
Yeah, and that's fair as well. If I would kind of put my thoughts on it, to make it in a way that is the least amount of effort for the club, I think doing a way that you keep the system the way it is, if they really want to, but at least leave a pot to the side that is available for season ticket holders, so that people can do what they do, right now. All the fans are happy, and it gives younger people a chance to get tickets. Let's say there's most away ends in Premier League give you how much, like 2,000? You know, it's around the 2,000 marks on most grounds, unless you're like Bournemouth, for example, right? So let's say you at least save 25%, 20%, whatever it is, of whatever pot you get, and to leave that at least season ticket holders can get to it. You can say general sale. Like, for example, I'm not a season ticket holder, but I understand that I may just need to ask a friend or help out. Or I'm not going to each game, of course, because I live over in Poland, right? So I understand that I won't and I shouldn't have the same blessing as someone who is a season ticket holder. And I understand that. So yeah, that's what I would do, because I think that is more realistic, because I don't know if the club will want to go through and overhaul everything with the system. So that's a very easy way, I think, to fix it. So that's that topic concluded. Of course, there is a game happening tomorrow. Let's get on to more of a happier, sort of less intense conversation. And I'll go to Adam first. Is Preston a derby?
Yes, I'd say yes. I feel like you saw the atmosphere at Blackpool, and they're even further away than we are. I feel like Preston is probably our second derby. If they don't feel the same, they don't feel the same. But I'd say, yeah, there's a reason we sell out 5,000, 6,000 tickets at Preston, and it's because it's the game that everyone wants to go to. It's a derby game. It's a big game. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I asked you, Adam, first, because you are similar age to me, and age is very important. That I listened to on Joe's podcast earlier, that depends on your age, your kind of viewpoint on this is quite different. So I'm same age as you. Growing up, we never played Blackburn. Like, we played them in 09-10. That was awful. Growing up, we never really competed with Blackburn. But Preston, they were near us, and we can actually compete with them. And they were actually interesting games. I mean, God forbid, we can't forget the 4-3, which Chris Ilermo, I can never pronounce his goddamn name. Can someone say it for me? There you go. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
He turned into Ronaldo for a day for some reason.
Yeah.
So Joe, of course, who is, of an older age, of course, who you've aged fantastically, I must say.
It's the lighting, mate.
What's your viewpoint on this?
I hate Preston. I can't stand them. It's a derby. I mean, if I was interested then with Adam's pause, I'm going to say, like, if you said no to that, like, then the only derby we have is Blackburn. Like, don't get me wrong, the main derby is Blackburn. It will always be Blackburn. That's why we have the song "We Only Hate Bastard Rovers." Preston is a derby. It's the second derby, and for me, it's very close to Blackburn. Not like just underneath, but like it's a close second. So many years growing up, obviously, as you've said, I'm a bit older than you two. I turned 35 yesterday. So I was growing up just saw us play Preston. Like, I didn't see us play Blackburn until 1999. And you were saying 09-10 were awful. 1999-2000, that were awful. Losing 2-0 at the Turf and then 5-0 away at Blackburn. And they was playing this song that one more time every time they scored. And honestly, I can't listen to that song to this day.
Oh my God,
it winds me up no end. And then they kept us in afterwards and showed all the goals on the screen. I was livid. I was 12-year-old and fuming. But yeah, I hate Preston. And we've had some really good games against them over the years. Like, the Blackburn games just used to be tense. Not so much tense in the last one, because obviously we got, well, first half, I guess, were tense. But the Preston games are always free-flowing goals, great atmosphere. Got some great memories of playing Preston. Obviously, you mentioned the 4-3 one. That's one of the most recent ones. We won 3-2 there when Arthur Noer scored 2 goals. That were great. Obviously, we beat them 3-2 here a couple of times as well. Andy Gray scoring a header, saying something in... can't remember his name, Sean Lonergan's ear. So some great games against Preston, and it's definitely a derby, 100%. Like, and they do feel the same. I know that they don't like us, especially, again, similar age to me, Preston fans. Younger Preston fans, maybe not so much, but definitely my age Preston fans will hate us.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And yeah, from my own kind of own personal experience, my first ever away game actually was a Preston game, but Preston beat Burnley, and I think it was like a 0-0 draw. It was like 2006.
Yeah,
I think
I was on that.
It was an awful day.
Was there an overhead kick by a defender, John McGreal? I remember that David Nugent were running in. There was an overhead kick coming in, and I'm like, oh no, Nugent's in here. And John McGreal did an overhead kick and cleared it in last minute. And all Burnley fans were going mental. I think it was a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night or something.
It was a night game. I definitely know it's a night game.
Yeah, I was on that game, yeah.
That's mad. Yeah, I would have been 8, I think, back then. But I just know that was my first ever away day, and it was a 0-0 draw, so good start. But yeah, it's definitely a derby, absolutely. And I kind of wanted to highlight some comments there, which I found really interesting by Ryan Law, of course, Preston's manager. And I presume that you guys may have already seen this. Quoted saying, just remind me how much they've spent in January. Was it 8 million or something? But it's fine. That's no issue with us. And it's good for me and my players to go there and pit our wits against a top quality team. Joe, what's your thoughts on that?
It sounds like, like when you're saying to Mrs. like, I'm just going to go to a pub and she says it's fine, but it's not fine. That's what it sounded like to me, the bit where, remind me, just spell 8 million. No, it's fine. It's fine. It's quite a bit of like, yeah, exactly. Like, I'm not saying he's jealous of Burnley or Preston fans are jealous of Burnley. I don't want to cause any of that. Not that there's any Preston fans on YouTube, as we've already established. But as a manager, he
in defense as
a manager,
give a shout out to him.
I emailed him, but that's what I was saying on my podcast. I don't even send emails anymore. I had to send an email, but anyway. But I understand Ryan Law will probably jealous of what Vincent Kompany's not done, but what the tools that he's been given. Like I reckon that's where that comes from. I reckon if he's thinking to himself, well, if I could spend 8 million, I'd bring some good players in. That's why I want to put my wits or whatever he said against this team. But at least he goes on to say that we're a good side. But I don't really think you can deny that at the minute. Obviously, steamrolling the league and running away with it, definitely going up. So yeah, I guess he has to acknowledge that. But yeah, the 8 million thing, I don't think that's really too much bitterness about us, but more bitterness about the fact that he doesn't get them sort of tools given to him.
Yeah, that's a good way to view it. Adam, of course, to highlight that quote, but also you do wind up quite a lot of people online. That's kind of what you're known for, in my opinion. You are very much a wind-up merchant, which I love because I can't really get away with it, but you're fine. So keep it up, pal. Appreciate it.
I do.
How do you view and like before when people spoke about us being Parachute Payments FC and all that malarkey, I kind of like always try to defend us, but over time I've kind of become kind of numb to it, and it's kind of think, you know what, just screw it. Yeah, sure, we bought the league, and it's kind of just I might as well just stick with it now because no matter what we say, it's not going to make a difference. How do you stand by that?
Yeah, I feel like it used to really wind me up. The first few months it wound me up, but I've learned to turn it back on them. They think it winds us up calling those parachute payments when we can just celebrate the fact we've got money and they're all poor. Like, it's like if they had the money, they would spend it, and they haven't got the money because they're not good enough, and that's the end of it. Like, if we've got it and we want to spend it, we can spend it. We're pretty much already a Premier League club. This £8 million was preparing for next season, trying to get some cheap deals before we get inflated prices. Because Lyle Foster would have cost us 17, 18, 19 million if we were in the Prem. They rinsed us as it was, getting 8, 9 million pounds out of us. So, and also I'd like to just say that we're not even in the top 5 spenders of all time in the Championship. Like with 20 points, like I think Wolves spent 50 million, Stoke spent 50 million, Middlesbrough spent 50 million, Villa spent 75, 80 million in their first season after they went down. I know
that Villa, I think they finished like 14th, and Stoke they finished like 16th for spending that money as well. So it's fair to say that just because you spend money doesn't mean that you guarantee success, which is an important thing to keep mind of.
Yeah, and
sorry, go on.
Even spend that much. We did the hard yards of this season, having only spent 19, 20 million pounds, and it's less than half of what some clubs have spent finishing outside the playoffs. So yeah, you can say we've spent money, we bought the league, but at the same time we've done it the right way. We haven't spent 20 million pounds on one player. We've spent 3 million pounds on 8 players. I think given how little players we had, I feel like it was needed anyway. We couldn't have gone a season without spending 20 million. We just bought the right players. We could have easily spent 20 million and bought 7 Michael Kiteleys. Like, it doesn't like.
I love the Michael Kiteley reference. I love that. To quote Phil in the chat here, saying plenty of teams have wasted their money. Cardiff, Huddersfield, Stoke, etc. Parachute payments are only good if used done right, which is completely fair to say. And the kind of opinion in the chat seems to be that Preston is very much a derby, which of course I completely agree. So let's go into the game, and we're gonna just do like a short little preview here. So kind of look, we've won 9 games in a row here, which isn't a normal thing, especially in football and especially at Burnley, right? I remember looking earlier, 15-16 year, we won the league. The longest we went with a winning streak was 6. So go to you, Joe, first. Are we going to keep winning? Surely we can't keep winning.
Obviously, there will be a day when we stop winning, but it's a day in the distant future, I think. I can't see us getting beat against Preston. And again, you can clip that up, you can save it if we get beat, Preston fans, if there is one watching. But I just think they'll be up for it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to say they won't be up for it. And I think they'll make it difficult because they defend quite well. But I just think we've got the keys to unlock all defenses in the Championship. Even when we got dicked at Sheffield United, we still scored twice. We will score goals against Preston. They can sit back all they want. We will score goals. So I genuinely believe we'll break this record of 10. I think we equal it tomorrow, don't we, with 10? And I genuinely think we'll beat Watford on Tuesday night after that. I think Watford's a tougher game, by the way, than Preston is. They're a better side, and they've got some decent attacking players. But I think tomorrow, it'll be a similar game to like your Readings and your Rotherhams, where they come and sit back and try and frustrate us. But that might have worked 6 months ago when we hadn't fully clicked. Whereas now we just found ways to beat a team that does that as well, like we did it against Stoke recently in this run. So I just think they'll sit back and eventually we'll just find a way to unlock them, and we'll win 2-0, 3-0.
Sorry, I muted myself there. You say 2-0, 3-0. Adam, how do you feel about this game?
Yeah, I feel the same. It's going to be Preston are a very tight knitted team. They don't concede many, but they don't score many either. So I think we're not going to concede. We have one of the best defences in the league, and Preston just will not have enough to break us down. And I feel like they're going to sit back frustrate us. It might be 0-0 at half time, but as we've seen this season, Company's team talks work almost every single time. And I think if we are getting frustrated, we'll just calm down and we'll nick a goal, and then they've got to come at us. And yeah, I think, I agree. 2-0, 3-0. Yeah.
Someone's dogs are going off right now.
Yeah, sorry.
You can sort them out. Don't worry. Yeah, when it comes to Preston, I've got this weird sort of like it's two things, right? Because I'm still mentally scarred by the 2-0 loss against them the last time we lost at home, which was back in 2015. It was early December, I remember, and that still haunts me to this day, that 2-0 loss and that yellow kit that they had. And there's something about Preston that they're third in terms of the best away team in the league, which I'm surprised by more than anyone else here. I think we all are, but they are really good away from home. That's like their main thing. The fact that it has got that derby little element, I've got some weird feeling that, I know it's because we keep winning, and I keep thinking we can't keep winning. Eventually we have to draw. I don't know. Like, if I look at this game, I think that it can go down very much like the Coventry game. I think it will be, as what Phil said in the chat, that he believes that's what Preston fans think, that they could defend for their lives about 50, 60 minutes and then eventually cave in under pressure. Because the one thing that we have, which is the main reason why we are so good, is our depth and our bench. And when something isn't working, we could bring in a Coutinho, we could bring in a Benson, who I think could be on a bench maybe this weekend. I hope to see. I believe he's available. I just don't think J-Rod is in terms of injury news. Foster as well, I believe he just had a cramp, so he should be also available too. It's really good. Like, that's our main strength that we have. That if something isn't working, just bring on 2-3 lads and it's a brand new team again. So I think it'll go like Coventry. I think it'll be 0-0 half time, and I think that it'll be later in the game, 70th minute around there, that will score, and I think it'll be a 1-0 win. That's kind of how I see the game. Claret one in chat saying, why every week are we worried? Because football isn't meant to be like this. It's not meant to be this easy. It's not meant to be this comfortable. Like, this is make the most out of this, boys, because it shouldn't be going like this, man. Would you like to add anything to that, Joe? Sorry, Adam, you could go, Adam. You want to talk?
Yeah, go on, Adam. I've interrupted you once before,
Adam. I just think we're helped a lot by how poor this league is. There's 3 or 4 good teams and 3 or 4 okay teams. There's 16 teams that are just awful, and I think we've got very lucky with how poor the quality of the league is. I think in another season we would not be doing this, but yeah, I just think we've got lucky, and I think we will keep winning because of how poor the league is. We've got Sheffield United away was just we were 2.5
What
time.
game was that? I have no idea what you're speaking about. I no idea. It's news to me, pal. No, that game never happened. No. We can completely forget that game happened.
We just forgot to defend set pieces, and I feel like we'll learn from that. And same with Watford. Watford, when we lost to Watford, we were just, it was the second game of the season. We still had half our players to come in. We weren't a polished side. We were just a bit unlucky on the day. We were through on goal, got taken out, hit the crossbar. I think we hit the crossbar twice. I think we'll learn from those 2 games, and I don't think we'll lose to those 2 sides again. And I can't see us losing to any of the other sides. I think we'll beat the 23 undefeated we had by a mile, and I think we'll smash the winning record as well.
Big words, Joe.
I think we'll beat the winning record. The 23 thing, because of the way that the run's gone, it's got the run that we've had in the middle of the season, isn't it? So I do think eventually we'll lose, just because it doesn't always go your way, or someone might do something silly like Martson did against Blackpool, or a stupid refereeing decision. But I do think that we will break the winning record. Like I said, I could see us beating Preston. I could see us beating Watford. The 23 thing, I might be a bit of a stretch, and I'm still on the fence about the points record. I know you said recently, Liam, that you think we'll beat it. I don't know. I just think there's going to be a period where we slow down a little bit, probably after promotion or after we've won the title, and we will slow down a little bit. But we're definitely in a very good position to be able to do so. Put it that way.
That's very fair. Like, if we are already promoted, let's say by late March or early April, you've got 6 games left. That could play a factor, but I guess we can hope that Vincent Kompany keeps them, en route to the job. So I'll just quickly ask you guys just a match prediction, scoreline, just kind of recap, and then I'll ask you guys one more question as well, and then we end it off. So go to Adam. What's your prediction and goal scorers?
2-0, and I think we'll see 2 from Zaroury.
Anas, love that. Joe?
2-0, Teller and Barnes. I think Barnes loves a derby, doesn't he? So Teller's on fire. Teller and Barnes.
You little, because I was going to say 1-0, but then with Barnes to score, because Barnes, I think he just has it in him with derbies, and he's on such a high right now in form. It just feels perfect. So I'll say 1-0 Burnley with Barnes goal in the late period of the game. And to end it off, I want to ask each of our guests a question, a Burnley sort of emotional, nostalgic question. So I'll go to Joe for the first one, and that is, I asked it in last one, but I think it's a really good question, and I'm interested to hear what you say. So, what's your favorite ever Burnley game?
Oh, favorite ever Burnley game. I won't bore you by obviously going through all the ones that can be chosen. Wembley isn't my favorite one. My favorite one is Reading away that season, because you scored 2 great goals. The away end was packed. There were no bickering about loyalty points. And it was just, everyone were buzzing. When that second goal, we were so nervous, because I remember we won 1-0 at home against them, and they had BK sent off, so we're in a good position. But everyone was so nervous. Like, will we finally get to Wembley? Yeah, what a man. Will we finally get to Wembley? Because we hadn't been to Wembley since 1995, 94. So we'll finally get to Wembley. I've not been to Wembley for 15 years. I've not been to the new Wembley. So everyone was so nervous. And then when Patterson scored that goal, it was just sensational. We were all singing. And I remember at one point, my favourite memory, probably ever football memory, it used to be on YouTube somewhere, but I was in the same sort of area. We started singing K Sarah Sarah, and this guy in front of me turned around and went, no, We sang that at Tottenham, didn't we? Don't sing that now. And you can just see in the background of that video, I don't know where it is anymore, of the ball looping in from Thompson's goal. And it's, yeah. And then they was belted out, K Sarah, Sarah. And I remember at one point just singing the top of my lungs. I'd have been 21 and just looking up at the Medeski roof, just singing as loud as I could. And honestly, that's probably my favourite ever Burn game, that one. Brilliant.
That is an absolute banger. My only kind of gripe about that game is the fact that, because I went to games with my brother, and of course he didn't want to take his 10-year-old brother with him, a younger brother with him. So of course he used my season ticket to buy his mate, one to go to the game with. So I always get really annoyed with him to this day that he could have took me, but took his friend instead. Which I get, he's pissed up in London, well, outside London, playoff semi-final. I get it, but I still hate Two Ash for doing that. So you still owe me one. Adam, what's your favourite ever Burnley game?
I think, as strange as it sounds, it has to be a lot more recent one. Watford away last season. Just the fact we thought we were doomed. We were 1-0 down to second league with 8 minutes to go, and we turn it around, scored 2 in 4 minutes. That away end was the loudest, most incredible away end I've ever been in, and it'll just stay with me. When I think it was Brownell that tucked it away to make it 2-1, and the whole team ran the length, knee slide in front of the home fan, in front of the away fans. It was just a moment that you thought, we're actually going to do this. We're actually going to stay up. There was a Michael Jackson song being sung. Yeah, it was just a very special moment. I think that a lot of people would remember a lot more fondly if we actually did stay up, but it'll still stay with me.
That is a great shout, to be fair, because on the last pod, Connor, he said Everton at home last year as well, which I think was also very valid, because that also felt like we were going to do it. And I mean, I already said Athens, Olympiacos was my favorite ever game. I guess it's more of an experience more than a game, so I'm kind of cheating there.
Yeah.
Just a little question to both of you, though. Just a little one. I've only ever cried at one Burnley game in my entire life, and you already know what I'm going to say is the Spurs capital punishment semi-final, Pavlyuchenko. I still hate saying his name now to this day. That's the only Burnley game I've ever cried at. Do you guys have the same feeling?
I've cried at that one, and I've got no excuse. I was 21. I presume you'd have been about 8. So I've got no excuse.
Thanks.
I remember sitting in my chair sobbing, and my dad was like, "Get up!" And because everyone had stood up and started sort of like just chanting Burnley songs, even though we're obviously going out. My dad's like, "Get up!" Like angry with me because I was 21-year-old and probably embarrassing him. And I just stood up, and then I got all right after that. But tears of joy, I've done that before. And it's funny you mentioned the European tour. When they walked out at Pittodrie, I put that on Twitter actually this week. When they walked out at Pittodrie, Aberdeen, I was like, wow, we're a European club. I watched them in the 4th division. All right, I don't remember it. Apparently, I was at York. There's a picture of me at York when we won it. But I've watched them in the 4th division. I watched them get beat 6-5 against Grimsby, 5-0 at Main Road and things like that. So I remember thinking like, wow, I can't believe I'm actually watching Burnley in a European game. So it's happened to me a couple of times, them 2 times. One's tears of sadness and one's tears of joy.
Have we all cried that same day then, Adam?
Yeah, but I think the closest in recent times was Villa at home, because we'd done all the hard work and then we just played. I think if I can remember right, we just played horrific that day. We had Villa back to back, and the first game we kind of just threw everything away. We beat Watford, we beat Everton, and yeah, I can just remember when the ref blew the whistle for full time. Sat in my seat, so deflated. I could see out the corner of my eye Villa fans giving it the big uns. I just didn't want to look at them, and yeah, I think that's the closest that I've come in recent times. That was when we played Tottenham. I was about 6, 7, so I don't remember it too well, but yeah.
And that's a good one as well. I thought you were going to say like Newcastle last year, but I guess that may be more of just kind of sadness and kind of just annoyance and anger maybe than anything else.
Newcastle
looking at chat. So go on.
Newcastle had accepted it was done after we went 1-0 down in the first 20 minutes or whatever. I was like, yeah, it's done. The hope killed me a little bit. We rallied and we nearly got back into it, but No, I'd kind of we were down.
Yeah, I've kind of not really looked back on that game since. I think I only watched it back, I think, maybe sometime last month, that I actually gained the courage to look back on it. And it didn't help. I'm still very annoyed to this day. But lads, thank you all so much for coming on. It means a lot. And Joe, where can people find you, of course?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for inviting me on, mate. It's a pleasure to come on. But yeah, if you want to download our podcast, Turfcast, just head to Turfcast on Spotify, iTunes, Google, whatever. Also on YouTube, just search Turfcast or on any social media, really.
Perfect. Adam?
Yeah, I'm just on Twitter, just Adam_Major1. Yeah, just Twitter, really.
Yep. If you guys want some great podcast content by Joe, you guys know to find him. And for the best wind-up merchant that I've seen on Twitter, then Adam is most definitely your man. Thank you all so much for coming on YouTube or on Spotify. It should also be available on Apple Podcasts and also Google, I believe, as I say this. So it's still some kind of like teething process, but it should be okay by the time you see this. Thank you all for your time. Thank you all for listening. And of course, up the clouds, boys. I'll see you guys later on. See ya.
Yeah.